All right. The hell? I must have closed my chat window. Fantastic. Huh. And of course, I have YouTube still running on my phone. What is going on? What do you call how to RPGers? RPGers? Gotta find a community name. This is fantastic. As soon as I pull up the chat. There we go. Roger, Victor, and Farty. Good to see you guys. Must have got a little crazy and killed all my apps by accident. How's everybody doing? Getting, letting everybody trickle in this fine Saturday morning. This is the first one since we announced the end of gaming and BS. So, in case you didn't know, spoilers. Remy, good to see you. How you doing? I slept in today. Didn't get up as early as I've done in the past. I'm slacking, and I had stuff all over the place. I was trying to shoot a video on Initiative yesterday, and shot for a while, and the sound sounded like crap. So, yeah, I was originally 12 hours off. You know, you just can't do this. I just can't do this without any hitches, Victor. It would be uncharacteristic of me to not have a small snafu every time I do this thing. It's just so ridiculous. So ridiculous. I might have to clean my glasses. What is going on? What is going on? It's a feature, not a flaw. Yeah. It's not it's a feature, not a bug. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna do my damnedest to make the last 4 episodes go smoothly. As I laugh out loud. Got an announcement that I'll make today. That'll be a good one. That'll be a good one. I have to apologize to Mirko, right? Because Mirko, I think on our Discord, Digital Hobbit, if you haven't interacted with Mirko, super awesome guy. He says, is it good news or bad news? And I'm like, well, it might be either. He's like, this isn't good news. So we have a lot of questions for our AMA for the last episode, if you don't know. Episode 384, June 27th will be an AMA. Got all kinds of questions. Some double up, of course, which is fine. Could always use more because some of them will be doubled up. But it's good. It should last us a little while. I'd tell you how many questions there were, but then it would be like, they got enough. I'm not going to submit one. If you want to submit one, head over to gamingandbs.com/AMA. I'll take you to a Google form and you can just submit as many as you want. Ideally, one after the other, not all in the same one. It's kind of a one-shot, one-question form. But, there I see you guys. Wow. Whew. All right. And for some of you that may not tune into the Discord, a week ago yesterday, I got fired from my job. And I brought that up on a game with Brett and Brett and Stefan and Craig from Third Floor Wars. Brett was running a game for Stefan, long promised game. And I said, yeah, man, I had the day off too. I got fired on Friday. People are like, what? So that's why I laid off the Discord, which some of you know now. I posted on there and said, hey, that's why I was out of commission last Friday into last week a little bit, just because, especially over the weekend. Having worked in the people industry, the job employment space, if you will, it's very easy to get into a flippant mode about people losing their jobs. Not flippant, that's not what I'm getting at, but it's easy to say, you know what, yeah, it's something happened, it'll be fine because you'll get another job and it'll probably be for the best. And it usually is. It almost always is. But what happens to you, there's such a shock to the system, especially if you don't realize that it's coming. Like there's some people, I had a colleague that got let go from the same organization and he kind of saw it coming. It was one of those, hey, you really need to get your stuff together or the next conversation may be a very, very difficult one for us. That very, very difficult piece is the talking of termination. I, this time around, did not receive that. So although it's not a surprise, let me rephrase that. The surprise of getting terminated, it's an amicable thing. The way in which it was done, which is usually the case, is the shock. Boom, clear, chunk. So yeah. What's up, Quincy? Hey, Phil. Joe. Harrigan, good to see ya. Yeah, I'll bounce back. It's a good market. I've got a few things under my belt, right? So I've been in staffing and recruiting for a long time, sat in HR, worked in corporate HR, doing recruiting, I've done staffing. Like I'm telling you guys, like what I've been telling other people. I've got a kind of a technical background. I'm a technical bend, but I wouldn't say I'm a IT guy. And then I've done account management. So if you take all of those and you throw them into a role, like a liaison from the business to IT, that's what I'd probably be looking for. There's one role that'll move along, I think, to the end stages. And I can't see me not getting an offer unless I really just am not a good fit. But or I tank it, or I say something that offends somebody. I don't anticipate that happening. The only problem is it's the first role that I kind of. There's some other hitches to it as well, so we'll see. It's also, it'll be fine. I feel very fine. I've got the support of my wife, which is a huge thing, right? The last thing you want is, what? You got fired? Oh, you got to be kidding me. Well, you better go start looking for a job and, getting, looking at your watch every minute. And what are you doing? Did you apply to this? Did you apply to that? So none of that, which is great and super awesome because it allows you to have a clear mind and being able to tackle that. So I don't recommend it by any means, but I can tell you this. Some of the best things that have happened to me has been getting fired. Not that I make it a habit, but anyways. So, yeah, I'm on the prowl, man, hitting up my network. I think I've only formally applied to one job, which won't go anywhere because of salary issues, but we'll see. We'll see. I feel very, very, very optimistic. I absolutely have no No worries about finding a role. The only worry I have is finding the right role, which can be a little tricky, right? I mean, I could take a role for a lot less pay, and that's okay. But if you've been at the same pay for a few years now, that's not going to move the needle, especially in this economy in the U.S. So anyways, there you go. Personally, what's going on with Sean? Let's get to it. It's a little after 8 a.m. in the morning Central Time here in the U.S. Hope you have a cuppa or a drink with you, some kind. Remy, haven't had to deal with that aspect of my job yet, but it's one of those things I'm dreading. That's another thing too. I think I've got experience with, right? If I go into a administrative role or some kind of ops or even HR, which I'm not a big fan of, we recruiters that have never looked for jobs before is a weird one to me. People that have never been fired but have to terminate somebody, it's a weird one for me because it's this weird disconnect, right? People, like I said, it's not something you should do, but I think that if you've ever gotten fired and then you have to fire somebody, it will leave you with a certain perspective. And with that perspective, you can have maybe some empathy. It was a weird experience for me, a very weird experience. So weird that because I work remote, the person that kind of does our ops had to come and grab my stuff, right? Had to come and pick my computer stuff up. And it was so awkward. It was like she made a joke earlier in the morning, not even a joke, a comment about her truck. And then later when she came and picked up my stuff, she was like, oh yeah, I remember, I talked to the guys about my truck and they said, when's the last time you hauled some flooring? And she was an individual that helped me. She has this big Ford pickup truck and she helped me move some flooring. Like literally, I got to take all this back. Can you help me? Sure, I'll come over. We'll load up my truck and take it back to the place you bought it. Because I bought too much. And so she's like, oh, I'm just kidding. It was a joke. Of course it wasn't that, they wouldn't know that I was hauling flooring. Like, I just got fired and you're making a joke about your truck and that I might have been responsible. So weird. Okay, well, anyway, take care. Anyways, it'll be fine. But I just wanted to give context because it gets you in a weird headspace. What did I do wrong? What are they thinking? What could I have done better? Just a lot of things start running through your brain and, something. Oh, Augie, please, dude, you're killing me. Seriously? Hold on a second. Please, here. All right. So let's get to it. So stay around if you can a little while because I think I'm going to announce something here and give you guys kind of a heads up on what I might try pulling off. I don't know. We'll see. All right. There's a teaser for you. That's awesome because that's not working. That's awesome. Oh, I know what that's try this. Yeah, now it's working. So I mentioned this a little while ago. It was kind of a new company announcement. The Evil Genius Games, that's the one with Jeff Grubb and a few others. If you don't know who Jeff Grubb is, he's second edition TSR time frame. He did Spelljammer. And he did D20 Modern. And so he is part of Evil Genius Games. and they're going to do an updated Twattern. I just shorted it to Twattern. A D20 Modern based off a 5th edition with the updated rule set of the world's greatest role-playing game. And they are going to do a Kickstarter that's coming in May. I want to say May 17th. Yeah, it says May 17th right here. And of course, some of us D20 lovers are just waiting, anticipated, in unabated breath to check this out. Now, the big reason I bring this up is, I haven't seen any games from these guys, so it's relatively new. But the Kickstarter they got licensed to make adventures to what they're going to release as the core. And those supplements are going to be Pacific Rim, Kong, Skull Island, Highlander, Escape from New York, The Crow, Total Recall, Rambo, and Universal Soldier. Okay, so Free League has, the Year Zero engine. They do Symbroom, Tales from the Loop. They've done Alien and Twilight 2000. And they probably launch those. Now, they also launch with the One Ring. They also launch with those kind of the core, and then they might subsequently come out with a Kickstarter for the rest of the stuff, like the expanded Forbidden Lands components, like the Beast book and the different region, which the name escapes me. I don't know the time frame of delivering of all these, but this is like no joke. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They say Rambo and Universal Soldier. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 properties. That's a lot, man. So, yay, good for them. I hope that it's going to do well. I would hope the D20 Modern folks are going to be all over it. One of the things that I think I had a D20 Modern book for some reason, and I don't know if it was because Jeff bought it or somebody bought it, and they thought it was a decent book for modern play, which I'm sure it was at the time. But with those types of books, when like Genesis did it, the Genesis core book from Fantasy Flight Games. And there were things in the back of Genesis that, like, hey, if you're going to do fantasy, here are some fantasy archetypes, but very brief, right? Or if you're going to do, like, I don't know, cyberpunk, here's a couple archetypes, just to kind of give you a start. But when you get those generic settings, for me, I kind of get left out on what to do with them, really. Because the setting book doesn't come out, I think Terranoth or whatever that comes out eventually, has then the stuff fully baked, right? Has the setting and then the races and what those races should get for base dice in Genesis. So I think if you just take D20 Modern and go, hey, I'm gonna make the Crow. We're gonna play the Crow. I'm gonna use D20 Modern, and there isn't a Crow book. Then the player characters may have knowledge of the Crow because they're big fans of the movie or whatever. But how does the D20 Modern skill rule set and everything move into embracing elements of the Crow? And I may overanalyze this a little bit. I mind you, I think I'm getting worse in more analysis pieces. But they're, the monsters, the bad guys, the setting components, things of that nature. And I think because it's hey, let's just make a sheet with rules and, when to resolve conflicts, and this is how it's done, and then attacking a setting onto it, there's a gap. because I think when you want to maybe facilitate play like Vaesen, right? Brett and I did an episode on Vaesen and probably did it half justice. Like we raved about it. Brett's been very impressed with it. I went out and bought it. I read it. It's a relatively quick and easy digestion of a role playing game. What we tout it as is like a curated experience. So in Brett's world, he could do everything that they do in Vaesen just using AD&D. I'm kidding. He would say it, but I'm saying that in jest. But the way that it has its like headquarters and then the different archetypes, and that the Vaesen don't really have stat blocks. Like they don't have every Vaesen, right? That's kind of the evil Nordic, not evil because they're not always evil. The fairy tale mythology of Nordic Scandinavian mythology, folklore. The creatures that you run into differ, right, from one to the next. They don't all have a uniform stat block. Yes, they have a couple things that are, they'll have this or that common across the board, but because they're all different, it's not strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity for each one, but their scores differ from one another. And there's a reason behind it. The way it handles it's not a combat-based game. So what other things do you encounter in that game? What do you roll? And what's the impact to the character? And because it's a Nordic horror role-playing game, it is built with all these things in mind. Alien's a perfect example too. And I tout Free League stuff pretty frequently. It's because it's good, in my opinion. I don't know what to say. Same thing with like Alien. So there's a stress mechanic in Alien. And as you do things, you take on more stress, but it doesn't necessarily penalize you. So sometimes you want to take more stress because you could become super focused, whatever, but it keeps building and building and building. And there's a reason, right? You're trying to emulate the feeling of the Alien franchise. So how do you do that? You put it into the game. So when I think of games like GURPS, Genesis, Everyday Heroes is what this one is called, by Evil Genius Games, and then you get the supplement. Is it you're playing D20 Modern, and you're playing it in a setting? Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like we do it all the time in kind of the D's and D's, right? I just don't know if it's the type of game that I prefer to play nowadays. And maybe if it's like, I don't know, pretzels and beer type of game, not a big deal. But is there, and in fairness, we haven't seen what the supplements look like. Maybe in the supplements, they do something similar to what Free League does in their games because they have the Year Zero engine, but the Year Zero engine is not always uniform across all of their properties, right? They use it in Tales from the Loop, Alien, Forbidden Lands. Do they use it in Coriolis? I think so. But the way that they use the mechanics in each one of those games varies just a little bit based on the game. If you're a fan of Free League and you have a lot of their properties, you probably know what I'm getting at. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Having said that, let's make a transition, shall we? Why? There we go. Blade Runner, finally out, kickstarted, funded in 3 minutes. Pretty low entry to funding, though. I think they only had like a $10,000 minimum. And I wonder if they just thought, we're going to blow it out of the water anyway, so just put in a number. That seems relatively realistic at the minimum. But yeah, who you guys going on this? Any of you? It's okay if you didn't. Because Blade Runner's, it's Philip K. Dick, based on the Philip K. Dick novel, Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, which I started reading. A little bit different from the movies. Shocker. Started listening, audiobook. Thought I'd get in on this. Admittedly so. I have to watch the second Blade Runner movie. I've seen it once and that was it. And it was a long time ago and it didn't make a lasting impact. So I'll have to catch up on that. But getting to understand that world a little bit and what you're going to be doing. But they've put out a lot of the kind of previews and some of the art, a little bit about the game. The most anticipated RPG of 2022, according to annual EN World Vote. Well, I don't know if there's a ton coming out in 22. Not taking anything away from Free League, but come on. Lots of dark neon pages. So production value, it's going to be top notch. It'll be interesting to understand in this. See, here's where kind of people want to know more about it, right? Like, what do you do in the game? Who do you take on? And in the original movie, Deckard, he's part of the police or whatever, and he's trying to hunt down replicants, right? Androids. So in this game, we'll propel you into the streets of LA. So maybe LA is that's it. It's LA. Which probably will be fine. Tales from the Loop usually revolves around a particular town. The only reason I'm a little okay, maybe they're drawing the box a little bit. The only reason I kind of squint at it is only because Cyberpunk 2077 or Cyberpunk Red, 77's a video game. Cyberpunk Red takes place in a town, city, what the hell is it? Whatever, Night City, and that's kind of it. So if there's anything that's kind of talked about or you want to go outside of Night City, unless you pull out some of the old Cyberpunk books, that's kind of it. Where in some of these Cyberpunk games, you have the history of the world, the Android Beanstalk from Genesis, right? It's like kind of a campaign setting book. It talks about the history of the world and the different megacorps and the regions, at least maybe of the US, if not further. So hopefully, I'm sure LA will be just fine. It's a big enough city. Plenty of stuff to do. The core game and its line of expansions will push the boundaries of investigative gameplay in tabletop RPGs. So there's probably going to be an investigative component to the mechanics, I would guess, giving players a range of tools to solve an array of cases far beyond retiring replicants. It's not going to be the only thing you're doing. So maybe it's going to be a little more noir, police crime work, investigative. Apart from the core casework, the RPG will be in setting and mechanics showcase key themes of Blade Runner: action, corporate intrigue, existential character drama, and moral conflict. So it'll be interesting if they incorporate those into some type of mechanic pieces or components that challenge player characters to question their friends, empathize with their enemies, and explore the poisons and perseverance of hope and humanity during such inhumane times. Content warning. Franchise deals with dark and existential themes. This role-playing game is no different. The stories told in this game can be violent, distressing, and raise issues relating to personal morals. This is not a game for children. I'm sure they learned from Vaesen as people picked it up thinking it was a fairy tale book to run kids through when, something might be eating somebody. If this ends up being the spread, that's the starter set, which will be interesting because on Monday night, today's 7th, 8th, 9th, The 9th, Brett and I are going to be talking about starter sets and core books. Is it worth buying the starter set? What's the advantages to buying a starter set? So, just coincidentally enough, starter set for Blade Runner, core rulebook, over 200 pages, lore, and original investigative RPG rule set that takes Free League's award-winning Year Zero engine to a new level. So they're obviously going to use Year Zero engine. Symbaroum is not Year Zero engine, so it's not the only thing that they do. And they could do it differently, right? For example, Twilight 2000 is kind of based on it, but it doesn't use D6s solely, which is usually at the core of Year Zero engine games. So there's the Off-World edition. I kind of went in on higher on this one. I don't know if I got the Off-World edition. I actually like the original, like the core book regular edition, standard edition. Sometimes the fancier, I mean, this looks great, looks beautiful, but I like the artwork on the front of the book sometimes. That's just me. They won't print it again, though. Special edition Kickstarter. Maybe I need to get both. Because these things, if it's never going to be printed again, they go bonkers on, like, put it up on eBay. Oh, I missed the Kickstarter. I really want that special edition. Sure, buy it on eBay. It's $300. Lots of darkness in Blade Runner. Soon after the Kickstarter ends, all backers will get early access to PDF versions of the complete core rulebook and starter set months ahead of the official release. The game is largely complete, and we're chomping at the bit to share it with you. Here's the core mechanics. Looks like a Twilight 2000 maybe approach, right? As a core mechanic, you roll 1 die for your base attribute and 1 die for your skill. Pretty standard, Year Zero. The more competent you are, the better the dice you get, from feeble D6s to extraordinary D12s. So they're mimicking more of Twilight 2000 approach versus Forbidden Lands, Tales from the Loop, where it's only D6s. Only D6s in the core mechanic. So any roll of 6+ on either die indicates a success. That's pretty standard across the board of YZE. And multiple successes will trigger powerful bonus effects. And then rolls can be pushed, another standard, which is rerolled with different effects depending on if you are human or replicant. So you could play a replicant. So I imagine you could play one and like subvert missions maybe. The rules are designed to blend in seamlessly with the story and let you focus on the casework and character drama while pushing the themes of the game to the forefront. Some add-ons. So, and then of course, when you do get in on a Kickstarter from Free League, you are offered to buy all the other stuff that they've ever put out, which is always an interesting challenge for people like myself. I haven't even read Coriolis. I picked up 3 books for like $45, and I know I'm sure it's good. I think I might. I think a purge maybe in the future here. But so yeah, there you go for Evil Genius Games and some of the properties that are coming out, and then of course, what is it even up to now? Does everybody know? Everybody flocks to Kickstarter. I think I saw it last night. They were over 1 million, 1.2 million, I think, maybe at the time. And as I was sitting there, I just saw the clock just. Yeah, 1.2 million. 11,000 backers. 19 days to go. Whoops, as you cannot see. So the nice thing that they also didn't mention is an alpha or beta, which they did with Twilight 2000. So you got PDFs relatively quickly after the Kickstarter, but it was like the alpha version. And then they reworked it again. So people started playing the alpha, and then the beta came out, and then they originally, did they come out with a beta? They might have just skipped to the end, but if it's true where like after this Kickstarter, you get the game and it's baked and done, that's a good Kickstarter, man. That's fantastic. Like, I don't know, man. Freely is firing on all frickin' cylinders. It's hard to hate these guys. Now, it may not be the games that you want to play. It may not be the mechanics that you prefer. But how many Kickstarters have you ever backed that, hey, when it's, and I'm talking major players, not like, hey, I got the zine that's done. No offense to zine makers, but the zine's done. I just got to print it. Maybe there's an art order, but after I'll give it to you. Not even some of the zine folks do that. Like this, if this thing is done, they just need the money to print it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't know, man. So there you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. I can play all those D20 modern games with Fate or Cortex Pry. Ty. You could play any game using any system. Like you can play anything you want. Just using D&D. You can play anything. You can. Phil McClory's in my bandwagon. We got the bandwagon going on. Hop on the bandwagon. Free League is the best RPG company at the moment. I would die on that hill. Remy, wonder if there are modular components to the base. Base! Are you talking about D20 Modern, Remy? Probably, I'm guessing. Never heard of Free League. Tell me about it. Seriously, Ty? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Only thing is, Ty, you're a Cortex guy. Here's the thing with Cortex. Great. It's the same thing I was talking about earlier. D20 Modern, GURPS, Genesis, Cortex. I don't have time to build all the crap. I just don't. They're great. It's an awesome creative process. But like Brett, he's like, well, why would I do that? When it's all right here. I don't need to do all that. I mean, I could. Totally easy, Yeah, Hey, Eric. Good to see you, man. Morning. Phil says, not really my genre. Might pass on this one, but it looks beautiful. Yeah, I totally understand that. If they give Blade Runner the alien treatment, it'll be bloody great. I have played a Blade Runner in a Fate game. Now, Remy says I want to, but always get heat from my wife when I back a Kickstarter, so I have to pick and choose. The struggle is real, Remy. Hard pass on Blade Runner? Sure, no worries. Eric, game from my beta look for the show I'm doing is fantastic. Yeah, so Eric's doing a lot of streaming. That guy is a monster. So if you want to see two-time Iron GM winner, Eric Frankhouse stream, he does it on, what is it, the Nordic Dice channel, the Nordics channel, the Nordic Viking channel. So Beto and Grimm, it's done, I think. Oh, Riddell, good to see you. So many games, so little time, for sure. I think I'm going to do a purge. I think I have to do a purge. And because I think I have to nail down some of the core books that I'm just going to be, these are the games that I jam on. I say that now. Delta Green, Star Wars. Call of Cthulhu's even slipped, right? I haven't played any COC, but I have a huge amount of stuff coming from them from their Kickstarter. there's like Savage Worlds. I don't play Savage Worlds. I got the whole box thing over there and play it, when I run, forget about it. I don't know. Maybe that's my problem. That's the problem. That struggle is real. And Riddell puts it out there, like too many games, so little time. And so, I'm thinking at the end of the month, you got 3 guys set up to run Impossible Landscapes from Delta Green. That's going to be a long time every other week, probably at least a year-long campaign. Delta Green's so good. So good. The system, maybe. I think it does what it needs to. Could it be better? Probably. But it's so good. It's so good. It's my jam. Jason, good to see you, man. Setting a $10,000 funding goal is just free marketing. Funded in 3 minutes. Badge is like an Oprah's book club badge for dorks. Yeah, that's true. That's a fair statement. If it was $1 million minimum and it funded in 3 minutes, then we could all like shit our pants. So that's a good point. We should probably state that, right? Like whenever somebody puts it out there, like, all right, come on. If I put a Kickstarter out there for $1, it gets funded in 2 seconds. Too many with the different rule sets. Delk, I will probably one day, a long time from now, pick it up if people end up raving about its investigation mechanics, but I would likely never play it. Here again, this one will be a keeper for me. I love both movies, Cyberpunk, generally with Free League win-win. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I've got Cyberpunk games, and I don't know if I'm starting to kind of shy away from them, or if it's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because technology's moving the way it is now. I've got the Sprawl. I've got the Veil. I've got Savage Worlds, Interface Zero. I had the Beanstalk, Android Beanstalk supplement for Genesis. Shadowrun. Whether that's Cyberpunk or not is up to you, but let's lump it in there. Cyberpunk Rad. I think those are all my Cyberpunk games. I've played 2 of them. I don't know. I got Cyborg coming. It's the genre like espionage that doesn't get enough play at my table. And I don't know. I think Cyberpunk, like Blade Runner, might be cool because it's not hardcore Cyberpunk, right? Not like some of the other ones, I don't think. So we'll see. Soylent Green is the best of a kind of protein, Victor says. Yeah, though I probably have more unplayed Cyberpunk games than any other genre other than fantasy. And I think that's probably, I'm pretty close to that too, Harrigan. I think that and espionage are really close. I might pick it up at a half-price bookstore. You're never going to find these in a half-price bookstore, Ty. Eric says it's pretty damn complete. The mechanics are solid and the case file stuff is damn smart. Cool. All right. Deliver early and deliver quality. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do this? Why couldn't Monty Cook Games do this with the Appalachian Emergency Room? I think all like many of their Kickstarters are late, right? Is it late if you get the PDF ahead of time? Maybe, kinda, sorta. I don't know. I think it ties you over. Talk about damage control. Hey, shipping's a fucking fiasco. But hey, we've given you the PDF like 6 months ago. Go bonkers. Go play the game. Hype it up. I don't know, man. It makes sense. Makes sense. Norse Foundry. Thank you, Eric. Norse Foundry. Nordic. Norse Foundry. And Eric Frankhouse presents for the show. I have the month off. But 5 new shows in June. Guy's a beast. Ty says, I understand why Brent would not want to build monsters. I feel the pain. Just give them to stats and 2 powers and go for it. Yeah, it's Brett. Just so you know, Ty. No E, no N in Brent. In Brent. Larry, I've been fighting FOMO with Kickstarter. I'm only getting the ones I really want, so this is a pass. My library is leaning more indie lately. Yeah. Larry covers Kickstarters. I was on their podcast, so for him, he's getting like the Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe hoses pointed at his face every week. Matty Q, good to see you. Eric, man, when you say Delta Green, dude, Impossible Landscapes is fantastic. The King in Yellow is involved. Spoilers. Doesn't really matter. Whatever. The yellow sign. It's just a complete, like, what in the hell is going on? But it can frustrate players. That's a whole nother ballgame. Phil says the free fan Delta Green scenario they recently posted is creepy as hell, really disturbing. I saw that. I downloaded it. I haven't read it. I think it was like some person, right? They just licensed it under their like community license, I think. I'll have to read it. Jason says, here's why I backed only the Blade Runner PDFs, because I don't like the way I feel once I get the Game Found backer kit email to verify shipping. The honeymoon period is over and guilt sets in. Yeah, I don't think that is unusual. I don't think that is unusual, Jason. I know that Brett and I have had Kickstarter. Like, I think that's where the sour taste comes from, when it doesn't deliver on time. And then it's specifically when it doesn't deliver on time. It's also the dopamine hit you get, like, hey, I'm going to get this. It's cool. Click, I'm all in. Oh, and by the way, you're going to get it in a year. And so then the dopamine wears off and you're like, and then it comes like, what's in the mail? Oh, I didn't know this was going to be here. I just got notified that one of them is en route. Which one is it? Crap. See, I don't even remember what it is. Case in point. Quincy, good to see you. I just wonder if Blade Runner has hacking rules. If there's hacking rules, it would be hard, no? Yeah, maybe. My guess is that it's if they don't mention it, it's probably not going to be a thing. It may be a skill check. Like, the skills might be technology or something. I don't even know why, because you would think that in that world, it would be like, do you have an adventuring skill when you're playing Forbidden Lands? We'll see. There might be like an investigation piece, right? Component. Eric might know. I don't know if there's a hacking piece to it, though. There's few facets to cyberpunk that aren't always hack the planet. But, I could see why people would want to do it. I've been playing more ICRPG with pre-made monsters and modifying some with the playing card size picks make it easier to show who they are fighting. Describe it, man. Don't show many pictures. Let the player characters think of what they draw up, what they think they see. It's the same thing about MCG and what they do. It bridges the waiting gap when you get the PDF early. It does. In the MCG Kickstarter, when I found out, I don't think I realized it, right? But when I found out that they only give you PDFs for the print version in Kickstarters, unless it's like a weird holiday thing, because I think that's what happened. I thought during the holidays, hey, if you buy Cypher, blah, 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 then you get the PDF, or it's get the Cypher system and PDF bundle, whatever. Great. Holidays over, go and buy, maybe look at the same thing, buy the print or buy the PDF. What? Come on. You gotta buy them. I gotta buy them separately. I'll pay more for both. I mean, we have to do a better job at. Here's the thing. I think we have to have do a better job of being able to spend more money. This is going to sound crazy. I think we need to be better about understanding the value that the games provide to us. There's a few things that will do. So I think that if Blade Runner were an $80 book, would you buy it? The print book. It was $80. Would you buy it? Take your favorite game, favorite publisher. They put out a book. You're kind of a ride or die, buy whatever they put out. If it's 25 to 50% more in cost, would you buy it? Thing is, MCDM, right? Flea Mortals. And I had to be reminded of this when I was on Larry's show. This had a $600,000 minimum goal. It wrapped up at $2 million. And the lowest pledged level is PDF for $40. The pledge for the standard hardcover book plus PDF, you do get a PDF with the hardcover book. Again, Monty Cook doesn't do that typically. $70. $70. People looked at that and said, oh, $70 is too expensive. Too expensive. But MCDM, it touts that they are the highest paying publisher of their stuff. They pay people, the writers, more per word. So, of course, in order to make the money, they got to jack up their price. So it's not. So some people will skew this and say, oh, $70, it's a money grab. Colville and the gang just want to make more money. They could sell more. They could sell whatever amount and they can make more money per book. It's solely evil capitalism at its finest. Not if you're paying your people more. Like he's probably paying more than Wizards for their freelancers. But then Wizards will say, you want to write? I'm sure there's a sense of entitlement with Wizards where it's like, hey, you want to write for us? Here's the deal. And they probably have people lined up at the door. It's a weird scale of economy. But let's think about this for a second. So say Blade Runner's $80. Would you buy it? Because what it'll do is start weeding out, the crap. I mean, there's a glutton of stuff out there. And some of it, is good and probably should be a lot more. But how do you determine what that is? And everybody pricing their stuff at pay what you want or $1 is I don't think it's doing the hobby any favors. But then they have to do it to be competitive. So that's why I think with these community programs and these license programs, if you're a company and you say, hey, we're going to allow Sean or whoever wants to write supplements for not even freelancing. Like if they want to write for DM's Guild or if they want to write for Free League's license, Free League has to police it. They just have to. And if they police it, then it's going to cost time and money to do it. But they could charge more. Like it's officially licensed. Like you start getting into the officially licensed stuff. But if it's put up to a certain standard or upheld to a certain standard, then it's going to be worth it. If we can drive the worth of the games up, then people can get paid better in the RPG hobby, which everybody complains about. Nobody gets paid any money. there's no money in RPGs. Well, why? It's because it's almost like this weird race to the bottom. And here's the thing. How many people are going to have the bookshelves of crap when everything costs 50 to 75% more? Just think about that for a second. Imagine all the stuff you buy and never get to the table. What kind of thinking would you have if everything was more expensive? You're going to be a much more diligent consumer. You're going to do more research. You're going to make sure, like, is it really what I want? In turn, it'll make some of those YouTube podcasters, their whole space will change as well. They may not. Well, here's the thing. If they say it's a great book and it's not to you, you're going to pass that reviewer off. You're going to go right by him. You're going to go, I listened to Sean. He said Flea Mortal's book from MCDM was fantastic. The print quality was awesome. It's really going to be a great book. It's well worth the $80. Same with Blade Runner. Freely. He said it was awesome. I bought both of them. They suck. Now, granted, there's a huge opinion pieces, subjective when it comes to this stuff. Like, oh, I don't like the art. Oh, I love the art. It's great. Okay. So you kind of have to find the person that reviews that stuff to kind of fit into what you like. Hey, Sean likes it. I'll like it. Like everything that Sean has mentioned, I've bought and enjoyed. We have common outlook on RPG products. And that's not to say and nobody here does for with me, I'm sure. But then their space changes because they're going to be pitching these games that are much more expensive. So you're going to have to watch these videos. You're not going to have to, but it would behoove you to watch these videos to see really what they're about. So now the marketing arm of those RPG publishers gets slid out to the community piece, or even if it's just themselves doing it, taking the time to pitch it because they got to put more oomph into selling an $80 product. But one thing MCDM probably doesn't even mention in this Kickstarter is, hey, just so you know, yeah, our lowest tier for a printed product is $70. This is why. If you want to support us and support creators that write for us and we pay them top dollar so they can make more money and potentially live off of it, or have it be more sustainable, this is what we do. I'm going to guess that there are a small population that would buy it just because of that, even though they might not even like the book. I don't know, man. I don't know. Am I being way out of line here? Is it too crazy? We have budgets, no question. Like, don't get me wrong. We all have to find ways to put food on the table. I get it. Pay the bills, whatever. But there's other hobbies that are really expensive to be in, right? Like Brett and his, I'm going to go shoot arrows hobby, right? I'm sure there's a huge amount of overhead to that, and it's not cheap, right? If you like photography, like, oh my goodness, you're talking like $10,000 camera rigs for crazy photographers. Tells you how serious they are, but that's aside from the point because ours is more in the entertainment side of things. A video game, they're bumping it up, right? I think they're all pretty standard $60 now. And they're a multi-billion-dollar industry. Selling way more than RPGs. And that's for like 40 hours of gameplay. But everybody's, hey, that's cool. I'm totally down with that. Yeah, multiplayer and single player game. It's cool. I think it would change the industry, but nobody wants to do it because if they do it and nobody buys their stuff because it's too expensive, they'll be singing crickets. And who's the target customer? College kids eating ramen, I don't know. I don't know. It's a finicky beast, but I think there is an economy that's just not. There's a reason there's a knock on that whole RPG space and money. So there you go. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm crazy. Sean, you're out of your mind. I don't even know what you're talking about, man. Because then I would have no RPGs. Secondary market might even be more interesting. Matty Q, I've in like 38 years of gaming played only one game of Cthulhu. Matty, I was the same way. I hadn't gamed, I don't know. I mean, I had a big gap like some of us have. And I came back and I poo-pooed Call of Cthulhu. Just didn't understand it. Didn't know the mythos. Didn't make sense. Oh, I'll go insane. It sounds really fun. And then I played it and I thought it was fun. I liked the investigation, the role playing. It's just a different focus. And I guess it was just more of a change for me having played up the D&Ds for so long. So it's not for everybody. No game is for everybody. But I think if you enjoyed the one game that you played, it's worth checking into. Yeah. Phil, or in the case of Kingdoms Warfare, 2 years. Oh, God. Phil's talking about the fulfillment time for MCDM's Kingdoms and Warfare. Yeah. Ty says, trying to find the perfect, for me, universal gaming systems. I have not found it just yet. A lot of close calls, but not perfect. Make your own, Ty. Death in Space en route, Sean. Death in Space. That's the one. Thanks, Harrigan. Yep. Death in Space. Death in Space. Aliens. Mothership. What am I doing? What am I doing? This game is so much better because it does this. And they do. They are a little bit different, right? Alien's different from Mothership, but can I have a fun experience playing both? Of course. Do I need both? I don't know. Eric says, not in the way Cyberpunk or Shadowrun has done it. It's a reference in my previous comments. Phil, I'm waiting for that one, Harrigan. Looking forward to the art and design. No idea I'll actually play it. Eric's run Death in Space. Eric Frankhouse on stream and on Twitch. And then Mothership's coming. Yeah. Oh. Matty Q, 25. Yeah, 50 is tough. No hardcovers at my house. All PDFs now. Well, that's good for you, Ty. Hey, going green. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Very well done. Phil, MCDM has lost me as a customer. You'll get Flea Mortals in 2025. Yeah. Yeah. Brett is actually waiting for Kingdoms of Warfare because he actually wants to run things that will use that rulebook. Me, it's probably going to go right into the off to Noble Knight. And depending on how long I'm unemployed, I might have to start, paying my health insurance with role-playing games. Another reason we need to jack up the prices so when Sean hits the secondary market, he could pay for health benefits to the U.S., which is not cheap. Oh, man. Phil says, my conspiracy theory is they needed the money to help pay for Kingdoms and Warfare printing snafu. Well, maybe. Maybe. We don't know, right? It's all shell games, right, behind the scenes. CDM could say they are paying more to the writers. How do you know that is true? Ty Prunty. Well, ask the writers. I think if they say they're paying writers more per dollar and they're not, I don't think the RPG hobby is big enough to sweep that under the carpet. I think that would come out, and being called to the floor in this hobby is not a good thing. Is not a good thing. Yeah, for sure. Phil hit it. I think if it was a lie, it would be all over Twitter. Yeah. That's just it, Matty Q says. Look at Vason book. Look at the quality. $40. Yeah. $40, man. Even Forbidden Lands, it's a box set. 2 beautifully bound, ribbon based. books, map. Doesn't come with dice. I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you need volume to get your game played? Right. Do you need volume to get your game played? Do you need to sell a lot is what I think Vardy's talking about. Do you need a lot to get people to play your game? Jason Cordova was on Third Floor Wars recently. If you're not familiar who Jason Cordova is, he's an Emmy award-winning podcaster for Fear of the Green Dragon. I did not know he was a former attorney. He is now in RPGs full-time. He authored Brindlewood Bay, which has piqued my curiosity. And this is why podcasting and YouTube is such a fantastic thing, because I listen to it and I'm like, Brindlewood Bay, no interest. Listen to Jason for 10 minutes. Holy shit, I may actually want to buy that book. And it's not because it's strange. This is going to sound strange, but I find people like Jason and John Harper to some degree, and some of these other folks, Sean Nittner's one of them. Some of these guys have an unbelievable amount of passion about gaming and what it means to them and facilitating play and getting things to the table and talking about game mastering and becoming a better game master, and that the rules should facilitate play. And I think there is a passion for that in, Monty Cook Games. I'm sure he has a passion for what he puts out. I think there is a passion that some of the people at Wizards has for putting out D&D product. I just hear from other people more about it. It shows, it gleans through. So when Jason's talking, if you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out. Brindlewood Bay is a take on like Murder, She Wrote, Victorian era, old biddies that investigate crimes. And one of the things he was talking about was how he had a person that bought it who was a big 5th edition player, like her husband, spouse, maybe brought her into D&D, and she wanted to run a game, and she picked up Brindlewood Bay. And I think she might have run D&D, I'm not sure. But she picked up Brindlewood Bay, and she told Jason that it was such a great experience. She didn't have to put in a huge amount of work and labor into coming up with a scenario or an adventure. The game kind of facilitated that, which eased her mind, right? Calmed her down. It wasn't going to be this huge amount of overhead to make it happen. And he's like, great, that's awesome. Mission accomplished, right? And so when I hear something like that from somebody that's not, a reviewer necessarily, or the publisher that says, hey, this is how we had it and we had this in mind and it really comes off and it works, getting that person that's like just a consumer say, hey, could he made it up? Sure. But thinking about like, well, now I'm intrigued on what that looks like, right? Now I'm intrigued on how he's pulling that off, because what is the trick to that? And what does that look like? Because he says, mention being in a mystery game, you don't actually come up with the mystery. Like it must come up in play somehow. So I'm really, really, really interested in Jason's like intentional design to facilitate a particular type of game. I mean, some of those guys are crazy fanatics about how do we get this to work the way that I want it to, and they just analyze the crap out of it. I think it is just a shortcut. One of these things somebody brought up with, I think on the Discord, was as a topic, I think they wanted Brett and I to talk about these game companies doing 5th edition stuff. Is it worth it? Does it make sense? And is it beneficial for their product line? And of course, there's all kinds of answers, and it gets a rather complex, right? You start talking about economics and earning revenue and tacking your product onto the big giant of the industry. But does it fit the game, right? That's another component, right? So if you have a game that's like Forbidden Lands, that's exploratory, survival, right? Hex crawl, and you did a Forbidden Lands supplement for 5th edition, right? That would be kind of a disjointed experience, because yes, you can do Hex crawl in 5th edition. Yes, you can. Is it specifically curated to make that happen? Some would argue yes. I would argue no. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyways, I think you guys get the gist. So do you need the volume to get your game played, I think is what I was getting hung up on. And Nelson, I don't know. Going back to Jason Cordova, he's kind of in the space where it's like he's not looking to make millions of dollars. He's not looking to sell 1 million copies of his game. He wants people to play his game. And I think he even said, like, selling a game but not having anybody play it that is not a thing that he prefers. Oh, it's Fear of a Black Dragon. Sorry, Redelic. You're right. Fear of a Black Dragon, not Fear of a Green Dragon. I only get a Green Dragon because it's green logo. Fear of a Black Dragon. Thank you for the correction. I don't know. I mean, let's face it. Some of these guys, it's a company. Monty Cook Games makes probably a good amount of money. Employs, Sean K. Reynolds, Bruce Cordell, Shauna Germain. He's got a CEO and a COO, community manager. Like, he's got staff he needs to pay. It's a business. And when you start talking about a business, Craig brought this up on a recent roundtable he had with, I think, Sean Nittner and John Harper, where he sits down with himself and 2 other people, and they just kind of pose a question to one person, and then that one person answers and elaborates. And one of the things that came up was, and I can't remember the context, but Craig was talking about streaming. And if you are streaming because you want to make money, then you stream. As soon as you say, I'm going to stream on Twitch to make money, how you do that changes the whole game. It's a whole different consideration. Because I'll tell you what, if you're going to do that, you're probably not going to pick something like, I don't know, Brindlewood Bay. You could, but the odds are you probably won't get the influx of people. Do you have to do D&D? No, but that's probably where it's at for visitors. So the whole dynamics changes and switches. Eric streams a ton on Twitch. He could say, I don't believe that. I think you're wrong, Sean. He's doing it. So that I may be completely off my rocker, but when you're in a company, the point is, if you're running a company and you have staff, or you're beholden to shareholders, i.e. WotC, which is now publicly traded, it's a whole different dynamic. So I would say you don't have to do a lot of volume to get your game played, but you probably got to do a lot of volume to get paid a decent wage, and pay your people well. Brindlewood Way is not going to have 10, 20 people in a company. I don't think that's saying anything out of line. So yeah. Vardy says, I passed on MCDM because of the cost. I might have picked it up at a lower price point. I'm not playing much 5e anymore. The last piece, great. Understand. Not playing 5e anymore. Probably not the book for you. I got 3 monster manuals. I had Tome of Beasts. I don't need another one. Totally understandable. But I think the lower price point piece, and frankly, Vardy's in a unique position because he's in Canada, but I think, should we poo-poo prices and keep poo-pooing the price? Do we say, hey, you know what? $70 isn't bad. What's a textbook? Who's got kids? Got to replace a textbook at school. Well, like $100, $200. Who's gone to college? That shit is obnoxious. Jason says there's a richness to having all your RPGs, books, and comics accessible in an edge-to-edge iPad library. That's especially true of the immersive freely art. Yeah. What's up, Hoos? Morning. I'm out of his mind. Am I out of my mind? Maybe. Ty says, I would hope part of the reason they write for RPG is the love of the game and want to share what they know. Sure. If you're writing for that reason and you don't care if you sell anything, that's a perfectly acceptable thing. Absolutely. I just don't think that if you want to make money, that's the way to go about doing it. Because that's not the reason they're doing it. That's a passion project. You can still do a passion project. As a matter of fact, one thing you could do is that as a passion project and then send it over to Free League and say, hey, I did this passion project. It's called Merc Borg. I don't know if you guys would be interested in it. And they go, holy shit, this is really super awesome. Yes. And, oh, by the way, we want to buy the rights and we want to, tidy it up a little bit. Can we do that? We'll pay you. We'll buy your product, whatever. Sean will be a GM for hire. I would fund this. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could be a game master for hire. I don't know. Whole nother level. That's another thing, right? That changes the dynamic. If you want to become a professional streamer, if you want to become a professional game master, things change. You have to consider different things than if we're just going to sit down and play Forbidden Lands next week. Whole nother dynamic. Remy, ouch, UD health coverage. Feel for you all south of the border. Nah, don't get me started. I think I'm paying $1,000 a month. Just over $1,000 a month. I'll start paying this month and next month for health coverage and dental. And that's with, I don't want to talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Phil says, I'm like Brett. I want to build a 5e campaign using ideas from Kingdom and Warfare. Waiting is killing me. Yeah, then I'll tick you off. Rodelic says, I watched a Hank ICRPG video ways back. He purged his RPG collection but kept Forbidden Lands just because of the quality of the physical product. I don't know if you mentioned it, Rodelic, before or somebody else mentioned that exact same video. They might have mentioned it on our Discord, actually. People were freaking out because he just unloaded all his stuff, which I think he had a ton of OSR stuff. Maybe, I don't know. Jason has some cool Dungeon World duets from back in the day. Interesting. Rodel says, I love Trophy Dark. No interest whatsoever in Brindlewood. Just wish him all the success. He brought up Trophy Dark, too. And the way he wrote it with other person, I think he was mentioning how crazily he gets involved in some of his projects. I think he wrote Brindlewood Bay in 2 days. That's nuts. No messing around. If you're in the zone. Oh man. Rodelic. Their digital magazine was pretty much niche games. I think it's, what's it called? Core. Oh, I can't remember what it is. Much niche games and niche supplements to run ultra specific story games. Rules literally to be able to run, say, a Dark Wizard of Oz game with a gay slant. Oh, yeah. Wayne, morning, buddy. Do an experiment listening to the show and growing grass. I got some grass. I walk by it every day. Is it any higher? I would venture to say Jason is in the camp that the rules are there to fully support the fiction. Yep, anti-Brett. For sure. And he says that. Jason's like, for sure. That's how I run. That's how I make my games. He firm believer in that. He stated that in the interview. Like there's no dancing around it with Jason Cordova. Anti-Brett. What do you mean? What do you mean? I could play. Oh, man. Who does Evil Hat? How does Evil Hat do it when they do pay what you want with most of their books? How do they stay in business? I don't think all their books are pay what you want. Dresden Files, Fate. Just reading some comments. Excuse me. Both he hopes. Film. Welcome, film. Good to see you. Just talking about tabletop RPGs today. Yes, every standard Saturday. Totally agree. To make a living streaming right now, you are running 5e, even if it's incredibly hard. VTubers are doing well with Call of Cthulhu. Okay, yeah, Call of Cthulhu is not to be missed out for sure. Who's Carl? $400 for organic chem. $400 for organic chem textbook. That's crazy. $400? Can you imagine spending money on a $400 role-playing game book? Holy cow. Yes. So say pay half, a third. Like 25% of that. I think the big thing for me is hobby gaming versus corpo gaming. Wizbro is not for me. Yeah, that's fine. Would you give as much to anybody else? Doing well with numbers or making money. Seeing those top earners for Twitch and then the drop off was pretty disheartening. Codex. William Thorpe comes in. Codex is the magazine that's put out. Thank you very much. Good morning, William. Codex. Verdelk says, yep. Film says both, I think. I never looked at the list of top earners until now. Damn, CR made a shit ton. Yeah, they were the highest, I think, right? $9 million a year. They're not on the top list, but I know they are getting more consistent views than any other table streams. Bonjour. Ah, français. I do not parlez-vous, but nonetheless. Either français or Canadian, maybe, perhaps. Yeah. Evil Hat, it's the Worlds of Adventure series that is pay what you want. Lots of books and other products sell at industry prices. Thanks for confirming, Harrigan. Which are too low. It all needs to rise, and it will. Supply chain, new economy, inflation, etc. Riddell, Sean is starting to make me think I should back limited edition Kickstarter and just resell. It's probably a saturated market, though. I know it's a board game market. No way, man. I'm telling you, all the limited editions or the alternate covers done by Hydro for D&D, I doubt you could get one for less than $100. I mean, you're almost doubling your money. Get one copy. Stick it on the shelf for a few months. Put it out on eBay. I don't know if I would buy 5 or 10, but it's a weird market. I would pay $100 for a great RPG rulebook. I think we should. Who says? Who works in accounting? He's a bean counter, aren't you? Who knows money? If you are going to spend a lot of money on a good product, it makes you think differently. You aren't going to get these. If there's guys with walls, like this entire wall full of books, and they cost a butt ton of money, they can do it for sure. But I think you got to be selective. It's just, what's another hobby like ours that has have this weird dynamic? You have the like corporate, you have the homemade, and who has these challenges of staying in business because they have to sell product and it's got to be good. I don't know. I'm so ignorant to this whole stuff, all this stuff. I need to talk to Craig Shipman. He needs to start digging into some of these guys he interviews and getting us more info. For example, how much research and development goes into making a new game? Like, okay, say, here we go. Got MCDM, right? Flea Mortals. What is the effort and time it took to actually produce this thing? He's got a spread in here, so there's some stats. There's like a 12-page preview you can view. The layout, the monsters, what they need to be. What's the staff look like? See ya, Joe. What's the staff look like? And what if this never goes anywhere? I mean, it's almost like, a $2 million Kickstarter. We don't know how much he's making off this. You could have my buddy Dave Beatty, awesome guy, great-hearted, heart of gold. He's the one that did Weird Tales. It was originally Dark Trails. Lost money on a successful Kickstarter. Like, lost 20 grand. I don't think that's a big secret because he's put it out to all his backers. Like, he's kind of had to put it out there as a public statement. Like, hey, man, I got, I didn't count all my eggs properly. Lost 20 grand on a successful Kickstarter. Is that a successful Kickstarter? It is for you if you get the product, right? Oh, it's successful. It funded. Woo. Like, what the hell? We have a weird definition of success. But, what if Monty Cook, God's Appalachia Emergency Room. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it in YouTube. Appalachian Emergency Room. The Appalachian gods of old Appalachia or whatever. They put that out. Everybody's like, oh man, the podcast is awesome. And they put it out and it doesn't go anywhere. Marvel is, a lot of people are harping on the Marvel RPG. They put out a beta. People are like, oh, isn't that great? Well, yeah, Marvel can scrap it and write it off. They're Marvel. But, Kickstarter helps. Another thing to consider, too, is depending on how you run your Kickstarter, if you have Kickstarter and Backer Kit, both those take money from you. I think some people miss that. Plus the shipping, right? That's a whole issue. But a lot of people are like, shipping's not included. You back the book, it's $80. Shipping's going to be another $30. My Delta Green Kickstarter, when they send me that shipping bill, just going to, I might as well start saving now. Man, that's going to be like $300 to ship. Board game is somewhat similar to RPG market, Riddell says. Way more production value, though. Big companies, small Kickstarters, not for retail, house rule, and 3D print community supplements. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the board game space. Totally foreign to me. Harrigan says it's far more than effort and time. It's the ideas, the things that facilitate tons of play, the intellectual property, and we have no way to measure how much games are really being played. Yeah. I see some parallels there. No 5e board games I could think of, though. Harrigan says, our Roll20 releases its numbers, but there's so much play outside that. Yeah, I don't even think those numbers are. They're numbers, but I don't know if they're accurate. They can only just report, right? So if I created 5 Call of Cthulhu games tomorrow, but they were never played, would they know? We should do that. We should get online, pick some screwy, small print game, and then everybody go on Roll20 and pick that game. Like just some weird campaign and see what happens. See if it moves them up the ladder. Good accountant is key thing too. Jason says, Sean, I always enjoy the Saturday chat. Heading out. Have a great weekend. All right. See you, Jason. Thanks for stopping by, dude. Yeah. Well, what else do I got here? Okay. And I got off on a tangent. I didn't have much more. I don't know. Let's see. Gen Con pop-up. They're done. I don't know if anybody took place in these things. They're on hiatus for 2022 as they focus their resources on attention on Gen Con Indy 2022. No pop-up Gen Con events will be held during Gen Con Indy this year, but long-term planning and development continue for the exciting future of pop-up Gen Con program. A revamped pop-up Gen Con program will return in 2023. Oh, excuse me, 2023, so stay tuned. And then it talks about what a pop-up Gen Con is. I don't know. It's, hey, friendly local game store. It's like free RPG day, but Gen Con. And but they don't give you, maybe they don't give you a product. It brings a bit of the Gen Con convention experience to your friendly local game store with newly released games for select publishers, demos, events, and sales. Okay, maybe it is like free RPG day. So retailers, are you interested in hosting pop-up Gen Con? Check the pop-up Gen Con retailers link. So I got to imagine they're just calling free RPG day, Gen Con pop-up. They probably get a bunch of product from the different publishers and designers, put a price on it, the game store buys it. Hey, pop-up Gen Con. Pop-up Gen Con. So that's done for now, till next year. Let's see, what else have we got here? Gamma. Not to be confused with Gamma. Game Manufacturers Association returns to profitability. Isn't that great to hear? Oh, they lost a butt ton of money one year. Gamma Expo is virtual in 2021. Origins Game Fair was held in September 2021. There was no show in 2020, which allowed for a substantial increase in show revenue. So total revenues in 2021 were $1.3 million, up from around $900,000 in 2020. Still a big drop from the $2.5 million in 2019, which would have been the last year before all hell broke loose. So that's good. I thought there was talks about Origins, maybe something else that I was referring to. So that's good. Gamma, they're the trade org for game stores and RPG gaming stuff and comics. I think they do comic. Maybe they don't do comics. Yeah, this is just other news. Okay. And then I think Blade Runner. Oh, I wanted to get this out there. What's going on here? Let's get some of these windows closed, shall we? I already have it open. No. Isn't this open? There we go. God. So Sean Nittner, Evil Hat Guy, project manager. Big Bad Online kicks off yesterday at 5:30 Pacific time. 24 hours of amazing panels, free for everyone. Free. Great panels. Check them out. Big Bad Con, obviously very big on diversity. And great, like, dude, you register. It's probably on Twitch, and I think you don't even have to register on their website, honestly. Go to their Twitch channel. Here are all. So I'll give you, what are these? Breaking systems and capturing inspiration. An intimate look at the art of Thirsty Sword lesbians. Thank God we know it's an RPG, right? Whoa, I gotta check that out. Let's see. Crowdfunding beyond the blockchain. Designing one-shots, RPGs. From fledgling to established. from the depths of the South Pacific. Let's see. Localizing RPGs in Portuguese. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm not reading all of them, by the way. All like 24 hours, one every hour. Like there's ones at 4 a.m. Pacific time here in the US. Designing the game, creating and publishing your first TTRPG. Co-design, the roses and thorns of making things together. So you want to hire an editor? I mean, this stuff's gold, man. All free. Like, hey, here you go. Learn from people that have gone through this stuff and have experience. We'll give you the ins and outs. It's fantastic, man. Good job on Sean and Big Bad Con for putting this out there for everybody to view. I've got to imagine they're going to put it all up on YouTube, I would hope. But that I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. There you go. You might not even know about it. Why are these not opening? Justin Alexander, this is where I got the Everyday Heroes one. And the campaigns that Evo Genius Games was coming up with. The different settings. So I think that's all I had for news today. So we were about an hour and a half in. So Monday night is episode 381 of Gaming MBS. You'll be able to find us at gamingmbs.com/YouTube. We'll be talking about core book versus starter sets. Thanks for Digital Hobbit and Mirko bringing that up. We'll tackle that to see what we have to say. If you want to submit a question for our AMA for the last episode of the podcast coming up in June, on June 27th, episode 384, where we're going to hang it up. We have a few questions. Could always use more. So if you want to do that, go to gamingmbs.com/AMA. We've had some people personally reach out to us via email and express their thoughts about Gaming MBS over the years. Many of them very heartfelt and impactful. You never really know how these things kind of fit into people's lives. Just Eric, I think. I don't know if Eric's still in the chat. Eric says, Brett cries. $20. Last episode, Brett cries. You heard it here. So it will be a bummer of a episode for sure, but things move on. One of the things that I'll mention today, because you guys tune in here and you're going out of your way to just hang out with some guy in Madison, Wisconsin, talk about RPGs and spew stuff he might pull out of his butt for a couple hours. I have something. I don't know if it's going to take off. It's very much in the beginning phases, but I alluded to it in the Discord, the Gaming MBS Discord. If you want to head over there, gamingmbs.com/Discord. And why is this not resolving? Strange. I have to... Oh, this is messed up. One browser doesn't resolve. It's so funny. On one laptop, I can pull it up and it's no problem, but on my desktop, it doesn't. Okay. Huh. Strange. I think it's a browser issue. So yeah. The spew of some young guy. Yeah. Hey, Lucas. Just in time, buddy. So that is... Why is that up? Oh, I see. Because I have to change my browser. Here we go. GM Mastermind. Game Master Mastermind. There's a lot of masters in there. It's GM Mastermind. GMmastermind.com. I should probably put an email. I think I have an email sign up, maybe. Yes. If you want to submit your information, your email address into that form. The thought of the Game Master GM Mastermind is a podcast
I don't have intentions of doing it in video format yet. That could change, just like Gaming ABS did. But essentially, to be an audio show, I'd like to keep it within 30 to 45 minutes, so a little bit shorter form. But the key is more building on top of maybe the random encounter of Gaming ABS and maybe, a little bit of steroidal injections. So ideally, what I would see happening is somebody's having an issue game mastering, or they've come across a particular issue in game mastering, or it's just maybe a general hobby problem with game mastering. Pick that piece out and submit it to the show, and then we get 2 to 4 or 5 people to weigh in on that particular piece. So you get a little bit of a lot of the community involvement, which is big for me. I love that. You guys are smart, beyond smart. You're here, so you got to be just super intelligent. But I was thinking, if you're not familiar with the concept of a mastermind, I think Napoleon Hill brought it up in like the 1920s. It might have been through Think and Grow Rich. But the mentality is, if you ever watch the Apollo 11 Tom Hanks film, where they're stranded up in space, they get them into a room with a bunch of engineers, and they all come up with some, okay, here's everything that's on the ship. What can they do to fix their problem? Let's make it happen. So the thought of a mastermind is that more brains are better than one. And I'm thinking with game mastering, it could be just that, right? I could sit here and tell you, well, this is how you do it. This is how you fix it. This is how you fix the problem. But I don't think that may not be the best way. And it may not be the best way for you as an individual. So if I can get, the thing is I'm going to rely on feedback. So I'd like to do the question, or whatever the situation is in the scenario. I don't want to make it like GM help podcast, but our game mastering is a craft. Some of us want to hone in on that. It's dependent upon what games and styles what games we like to play and the style that we have. And sometimes we can change our style, and sometimes we have a hard time changing our style. And sometimes the style changes depending on the game that we're running. Regardless, there are some GMs that have been running D&D. I don't know what that guy was talking about, the last 30, 40-year campaign. I'm going to guess he's probably running it the same way for the last 20 years. And that's okay. And if it works, don't fix what's that's not broken. But for those of us that want to maybe consider changes or different things that make the players, ooh and ah over our savviness, I don't know. So the only tricky thing is, if I don't get folks to maybe hone in on this, then it might fizzle. But I'm willing to take the chance. Let's see what happens. So that's kind of the thought process behind it. And also even consider saying, hey, we've got an episode coming up. Here's this topic. Would you be willing to comment on it? Like, if I have to go literally out and solicitate people, Sean, somebody might say, but Sean, maybe you should have them on the show, Sean, because then they're all there, kind of round table, and you can kind of banter between each other, which could be an option. The problem is, when you schedule one person, it's difficult. You schedule an additional person, it gets exponentially difficult, and then another person, and then you're trying to line all the planets and stars, and it could be rather difficult that way. So it's something where I will probably have to field like voicemails, emails, comments from the Discord that just happen to weigh in on it. And then maybe that's it. Maybe that's the show. That's all. One thing, we talk about it, provide the feedback from other people. I would be obviously more than happy to credit anybody, obviously, with their input. If they've got product that they want to push, kind of also establishing who the person is that's providing the feedback, right? Because I think sometimes it helps to say, hey, here's my background. I'm a Fate, aficionado. And so if it's a Fate aficionado, they may have a whole different perspective on how to kind of tackle some of these issues that other game masters, even playing a completely different game, might not see. So I think there's value in the diversity of gameplay and game masters and approaches that I think people can grok. Because what they're going to do is they're going to hear, even with Brett and I, they'll hear Brett and I and they'll be like, okay, I don't see me doing that. And as soon as somebody writes in a random encounter, they'll be like, that's what I'll do. That's awesome advice. That's more up my alley, my comfort zone. I think I can pull that off and makes much more sense than what Sean and Brett brought up. So that's Game Master Mastermind. I'd love to do it every week. Again, depends. Depends who. But let me know what your thoughts are. Like if this thing could potentially have some wheels. And put it out there. I probably should record that and put it out for episode 0. Lucas, sounds like think tank of GMs where topic issues are brought up and look at ideas to cover it. And I may just have to make them up myself. Like if we don't have people that write in and say, hey, I'm running into this issue, or how do you guys handle this? My group tends to be, tends to kind of prefer this style or this type of game. And, how do you get them to move over or whatever? I may just have to make it up and then post it somewhere and people can reply. Maybe it's the forums. Maybe it's the Gaming and BS forums. We shall see. But I am okay if you write me and DM me and say, hey, Sean, I think that's a crazy idea. I don't think it's going to get off the ground. Good luck. I'm all right with that. Or if you think that there is, maybe I'm there, but not all the way. And you think, well, I think you should maybe do that. But, somebody might say, well, get some co-hosts. Is this a solo show? Are you going to have co-hosts? Are you going to have guests on? I've always mentioned that I'm more than happy to have guests on and co-hosts, but I also need the sound quality to be okay. I don't need it to be like awesome. I just need it to be okay because that's important to me. And I think with the landscape of podcasts that are out there, specifically in the RPG space, somebody just the other day mentioned how Brett was on a show. And they said, hey, the audio quality just wasn't that great. Brett sounded really good, but the other folks didn't. And I know one of the other individuals, and it's unfortunate. So I'll maybe, can you help them be better sounding? So we'll see. Anyways, Sean, you need a forum to solicit things. I apparently do. So maybe I'll tell you what, maybe the forums don't get shit canned from Gaming and BS. I don't know. Maybe they don't at all. I'll just take on the expense. So thoughts? I don't know. I would. So when I was on Discord, I said, hey, I kind of got something in the hopper, but it's going to really probably rely on help from you. And people are like, what? I guess I'll try, whatever that means. Cryptic, can you be more vague posting? So that's the deal. That's what's going to come up. It hasn't been publicly made or announced. You can tell anybody. I don't care. It's not top secret. Heck, I just said it on YouTube, so that's fine. I would probably bring this up at some point as a die roll in Gaming and BS, but I also got to get it off the ground and start doing it, right? Like, it's a lot of talk, Sean, but How to RPG. So what's the future of this? I like getting on here and talking to you guys every Saturday. And as long as you guys are willing to get your asses out of bed, grab a cup of coffee, or if you're like Nubis, which he is probably, what time is it? Yeah, it's in the afternoon for him, probably enjoying the weather overseas. He'd grab a beer. But I'm more than willing to keep this kind of going in a similar format, kind of doing news and industry stuff kind of up front, because some of us aren't on Twitter, and good for you. And sometimes I see this stuff and I think it's just, hey, I want everybody else that may find this stuff interesting to maybe be in the know and be aware of it. And if you don't, you probably won't even listen and want to be on here. That's okay. And then maybe a topic we'll see. The topic du jour, which is rarely planned, by the way. So thank you for contributing to the chat. It really helps. And some of you know each other and some of you don't. And you might know each other down the road. So that's the deal. There we go. It's out there. So if you want to be a part of it, let me know. That would be the question. That is the call to action. If you want to be associated, want to help out with this in any capacity, at a very minimum, like I'm not looking for a huge commitment. Like literally, if there's a topic that you hear that you want to write into, okay, well, what happens if 10 people write in about that particular topic, or they leave a voicemail or whatever? We'll try to get through all of them. Or maybe it's I pick the top 5 or the first 5 or whatever it looks like, whatever it's going to take to get through the topic, I guess, and provide insight. So there you go. That's the spiel. And it could change. That's the beauty of podcasting. I could do it and this isn't going the way I want it. Let me just change this. So that's it, man. Let me know if like, hey, yeah, I think hey, sign me up, man. I don't know how. All right. Hoos is like, okay, cool. Hoos is in there. Sweet. Thanks, buddy. Could cover different adventures, hacking them into new systems or older systems. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There should be plenty of material to draw on from the Discord. Lots of conversations there that would work. Thanks, Farty. Yeah, I agree. Initiative is a big one. So I never said anything. So Saturdays, I'm going to continue to do this, right? As long as I don't get fired or find a job that I have to work Saturdays at the local convenience store or something ridiculous. I plan on being here Saturdays. I don't know if I'll do the big marathons. Maybe I'll have to trim this back to like an hour or 2 hours. I know that some of you are going to be like, oh, dude, that means I got to get up an hour earlier. I'll just miss the show completely. Just who knows? It's still going to go, but for now, consider it the same. Let's see. I was going to mention initiative in the Discord. So there was talks about initiative, created a thread, and I was we were kind of hashing out initiative, and I started figuring out like, okay, you've got initiative for D&D. Here's what that looks like. Then there's initiative for index card RPG. There's initiative for Genesis FFG, right? Star Wars. There's initiative systems for Year Zero engines games. How do those work? And when we play those games, we know, okay, roll for initiative. Even if it's our first time, it's like, okay, you roll this, you deal a card. It's in reverse order, right? All right. It's, each turn. Okay, it's your turn. But with initiative, sometimes I think what are the drawbacks to how the initiative works in a particular system? And is it worth trying to implement a different type of home rule that futzes with the initiative? And whether you use a different thing from another game and throw it into yours that's not the same, what does that look like? So I did a video yesterday. The audio sounded like crap, so I got to reshoot it. But it's some of those things that might come up for GM Mastermind is like, hey, do you guys find, hold on a second. I think I've got to answer this call from my Frau. All right. Little dog is up, which means, and I'm almost done, rambling anyway. So yeah, there you go. And so, videos I will probably still keep on this channel, like specific RPG based, thoughts, like actual produced videos. I'd like to do obviously a lot more. So we'll see what that looks like. So yeah, I might be biting off more than I can chew, especially without a dedicated co-host, despite, Brett's, he didn't do as much as I did, but nonetheless, his work did help out significantly. So I don't want to shorthand his efforts with Gaming and BS by any means. But so very thankful for everything that Brett's done as a co-host all these years. So I don't, I may realize how much he did when I'm trying to do this all by myself. We'll see. So anyways, I gotta go. My wife's driving me nuts and I gotta take the dog out. So remember, be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. Give this a like, give us a thumbs down if you didn't like it, and subscribe to get notified in the future. Otherwise, if you want to check us out on Gaming and BS live on Monday, we'll be there. Otherwise, I'll catch you on Flippity Flip. See ya.